Well, to me, Senator, you know more than I do, but my sources were very clear. The enrichment level was too great. The breakout time was less than a month. They would have the 15 nuclear weapons. The Israelis are not lying about it. And I have to believe those people that believe in a caliphate, convert or die, and threaten to wipe Israel and the U.S. off the map, based on also being the #1 state sponsor of terror. If they got the weapon, they'd use it. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're absolutely right. I believe this was inevitable, and it was rendered more inevitable today by decisions of the Ayatollah in Iran. Listen, President Trump has been clear for a long time that his red line is that Iran must completely dismantle their nuclear capacity, must disassemble their nuclear centrifuges where they are enriching uranium. And President Trump made clear they could either do so peacefully through diplomacy, or those centrifuges would be dismantled kinetically through military conflict. We're seeing the latter tonight. And this morning, Iran publicly stated no, they would not dismantle their centrifuges. And in fact, they said they would build more, they would enrich more. The Ayatollah made the decision, we are going to plunge headfirst towards getting a nuclear weapon. And basically, Iran gave the middle finger to President Trump, and Iran told Israel, you better strike us now, because if you don't do it soon, we will have a nuclear weapon. And when we have a nuclear weapon, this is a theocratic zealot who chants death to America and death to Israel. And they are building a nuclear weapon because they intend to be able to detonate a nuclear weapon in the skies of Tel Aviv or New York or Los Angeles. And so Israel is acting to defend themselves. And Sean, tonight, we should
Senator,
stand unequivocally with the state of Israel.
Senator, if I may interrupt you and then pick up your thought, Israeli news is reporting that Iran's military chief of staff has been taken out. Now, we can't confirm that, but Israeli news is reporting that at this hour.
Look, Israel has an incredibly formidable military. They are surrounded by nations that would drive them into the sea and exterminate them. Iran's objective, the Ayatollah tells you what he wants to do when he leads mobs in chanting death to Israel and death to America. He means it. The head of Iran's nuclear program, who has since gone to meet his maker, many say at the hands of the Mossad, he had written into his last will and testament that he wanted written on his tombstone, here lies a man who seeks to annihilate Israel. That's the level of hate. And I will say tonight, I want to say to every one of your viewers, please, if you're a person of faith, pray for Israel, pray for Jerusalem tonight. And let me say also, pray for U.S. servicemen and women in the Middle East, in harm's way. And I want to give a message to the Ayatollah right now. If you strike at America, if you attack our military bases, if you kill one single American serviceman or woman, I have every confidence that President Trump will respond with overwhelming force. That's a message the Ayatollah needs to understand right now, tonight. Do not attack our American military men and women.
If they are that foolish, they will pay the price. They are messing with the wrong guy. That much I can tell you. Prime Minister Netanyahu just spoke for about a minute. Let's get his comments. Let's get your reaction on the other side. Let's play it.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
You know, it's also Israel in many ways, I think you can argue, Senator, is doing the world a favor. And if you go back to the 80s and they took out the Iraqi nuclear sites, it almost went undetected. You might recall that the Syrian nuclear program was in play and they were able to fly under the radar, take out those sites. Very few people even noticed or paid attention. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth because this is Iran and what Iran is going to do. There's one thing that I would argue. This is happening because our former president, that would be Joe Biden, he literally turned a blind eye towards the sanctions that were bankrupting this country. And by doing so, he literally has enriched the country of Iran. He's given them money to foment terror, given them money to build out their nuclear facilities even further. And that leads us to this moment where we are today. Now, if they ever got a nuclear weapon, I would argue it's Joe Biden's fault, but I still would argue, too, that it can't happen on Donald Trump's watch either, and he has said as much himself. Last word.
Yeah, look, Sean, you're absolutely right, and it's even worse than that. Joe Biden didn't just turn a blind eye. He refused to enforce the sanctions against Iran, and he flowed over $100 billion to the Ayatollah. He made them rich in cash. And understand, Iran provides 90% of the funding for Hamas and 90% of the funding for Hezbollah. In a very real sense, Joe Biden and the Democrats funded the October 7th massacre. The death squads that murdered over 1,200 Israelis on October 7th were paid for by the money Joe Biden allowed to go to the Ayatollah. And I will say the threat here tonight, Iran, they intend to do everything they can. You know, it was interesting listening to you interview Mike Pompeo. Mike is a friend of mine. He mentioned Iran is trying to murder former U.S. senior officials. What he had the humility not to say is he is number one on that list. The Ayatollah is trying to murder Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State. They're trying to murder John Bolton, President Trump's former national security advisor. Joe Biden was spending $2 million a month in security to protect them from Ayatollah's murderous efforts. And by the way, let us not forget, Iran is trying to murder Donald J. Trump, and Israel is doing a favor to America right now by taking out Iran's nuclear capacity. We don't know how this is going to end up, but a nuclear Iran would be a profound threat to Israel and a profound threat to America. And so my prayers tonight are to every Israeli and every American in harm's way tonight, that God will keep them safe and that we will stand strong to prevent a nuclear Iran that could commit vast acts of mass murder.
Senator, I share that prayer with you. Our prayers are with all the people that are living through this tonight. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.